Straight Shift with the Car Chick, the podcast that's all about cars, buying, selling, fixing, and driving, and sometimes renting fast if you're the Car Chick. Now, here she is.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this Straight Shift. I'm going to apologize in advance if you can hear some rumming sounds in the background today. I don't know if they're going to come leak in through all my soundproofing or not, but my shrubbery guy is doing a backyard chainsaw massacre of all the horrible shrubbery that I have back here, just trying to do my part to help other small businesses stay afloat during these crazy, crazy times. And speaking of which, as much as I don't want to do a second podcast on this utterly depressing coronavirus topic, I have had so many people, including a lot of reporters, call me this week and ask, so what's the deal with buying a car during the coronavirus outbreak? And are dealers even open? And is there a way to do it safely? So since I have been answering these questions pretty much nonstop all week, I thought, really should just go ahead and do a podcast on it. I did a little kind of snarky short video on it that you can check out on my YouTube channel, which is easily accessible at www.carchick-tv.com or on the YouTube icon on my regular website, thecarchick.com. And I'll be putting out more videos next week. But I did realize that, I have a process for this because my business model has been virtual and designed from the get-go to minimize the customer's interaction and contact with the dealership anyway, just on general principles, because that's what makes car buying easier and more pleasant for them. So they just don't have to deal with the dealer. So it's really a perfect process for this type of crazy environment. We have just added some additional steps that the dealers are also adding. And I've been working with the dealers that I have good relationships with to make sure they're following proper safety protocols. And so I wrote this kind of coronavirus car buying process with my usual snarky attitude. I did it as a form of humor just to make people laugh. But then I realized, this is actually how we're doing it. So while it's a little snarky and designed to be funny, it's also 100% true. So I wanted to talk about car buying during this crazy time and how to do it safely. Because, the reality is, some people may need to buy a car. I've got a couple of clients right now whose, car either has died, of natural causes because it is just old and decrepit, or they were in an accident and their car was totaled. And so they actually need to buy a car right now so that they can get to the grocery store or they can get to their essential job because they work in government or they work in healthcare. And so buying a car right now is kind of an iffy thing, but it's also necessary for some people. So depending on where you live in the country, the first question I've been getting asked and that I've had to figure out myself is, are car dealers even open? And the answer is, it depends on where you live. Some places are under a stay-at-home, do not leave your house, shelter in place order. Charlotte just went under that order just a couple of days ago, and it's not the whole state of North Carolina. It is the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, which pretty much are one and the same thing almost. And they have different rules. San Francisco is one of the first cities to implement that. They have much more strict rules. The whole state of Pennsylvania is under that, and they have very, very strict rules. New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, they are under those rules, and their rules are pretty strict. So it depends on how the stay-at-home order is written and what that municipality has determined is an essential business that needs to be able to stay open. Pretty much all across the country, it has been agreed that car repair facilities, so anybody that fixes cars, can stay open because that is considered essential to be able to maintain our transportation fleet, which is so critical right now because we're all having everything delivered. So those delivery vehicles need to be able to be maintained. People that are in essential jobs need to be able to get to those jobs, and most of them are driving because public transportation is at a minimum, and places like Charlotte, we barely have it anyway. So car repair facilities are open. The question is, does that apply to the sales side of the car business? And that's where it really depends. And there's a lot of ambiguity going on with that right now. I'm working with a client up in the New Jersey area, and I've been looking for a used car for her. And I'm finding that the dealers up there are closed. They have been told, nope, you cannot sell cars right now. You can fix cars, but you cannot sell cars. So we've kind of put all her stuff on hold. Fortunately, she doesn't critically need a car right now, so we can just kind of wait and see how all this stuff shakes out and just pick it up when the restrictions are lifted and things are safer. Down here in the Carolinas, in Charlotte, the way the order was written, and I did read all 6 pages of it, it says, car repair and related facilities can be open. So, okay, that's a little vague. What do you mean by related facilities? Does that mean car sales? Does it mean just like the parts department or the body shops? They don't spell it out. So the dealers are kind of operating under, well, until somebody knocks on our door and tells us to shut down, we're going to continue to try and sell cars, albeit safely, but we're going to keep our doors open. So there's even more ambiguity with the small independent dealers, because the franchise dealers or large dealerships that do have a service and repair department underneath their same roof, they're interpreting it as, okay, well, that part of our business is allowed to stay open. Therefore, because we're under the same roof, we are a, quote, related facility, our sales side can stay open. Now, your small independent dealers that don't have a repair side, that's a little more vague, and some of them are interpreting it differently. But my opinion on this is that if the large franchise dealers that have repair facilities are allowed to keep their sales departments open, then the small independent dealers should be allowed to stay open as well, albeit if they follow ridiculously stringent safety procedures. Because if you close down one type of dealership for car sales but not another type, that's really not fair, especially since the smaller independent guys probably have a lot less of a financial cushion, and when they don't sell cars, it really hurts their bottom line and their income, because they are small business owners just like I am, just like a lot of you are. And so I think that puts an unfair competitive advantage in the laps of the bigger dealers. So just my opinion, and it's not like the government's asking me for my opinion, but I'm going to give it anyway. If dealers with service departments are allowed to have their sales site open, then I think that small independent dealers should be allowed to sell cars as well. And so far, nobody here in Charlotte has been shut down, so we're just kind of waiting and seeing. Well, with that being said, some dealers in other areas, they are not allowed to sell cars right now, like up in New Jersey and New York and Connecticut and Pennsylvania and San Francisco. So if you're in the market for a car, you need something, or you just, you want to buy something and you feel comfortable as long as everybody follows, very strict safety procedures, that you're okay with doing that, then you just need to check and see with your dealers in the area, are they open for sales and are they following safety protocols and are they changing their process to keep you safe? And that means that they're following what has always been the car chick car buying process. And I'm going to share this with you so that you know how I'm working with my dealers and kind of how I work all the time, minus some of the ridiculous disinfecting procedures. So here's what I've told my dealers. Step one, you've got to disinfect the crap out of every millimeter of the car. I'm inside and out. I want every square millimeter of this vehicle cleaned and properly disinfected using products that the CDC says, yep, it'll kill this virus. So that's stuff that contains bleach, which, you don't really want to wipe down your car with bleach. Things with at least 70% isopropyl alcohol, and just follow the CDC's guidelines and disinfect the crap out of the vehicle. That includes all the inside surfaces, the knobs, the buttons, the seat belts, the steering wheel, the door handles, the outside door handles, and the keys. Twice. Let's just be safe. So normally my clients will go to the dealership for a test drive after I've made an appointment for them, and the dealership knows not to harass them and talk numbers and all that stuff. So right now what I'm doing is insisting that the dealers bring the car to the customer's home to do the test drive there. So the salesperson, after the car has been thoroughly disinfected and the salesperson has disinfected themselves, opens all the car windows and preferably dons some nitrile gloves, which most of us in the car business have a stash of anyway, and then brings the car to the client's house for that test drive. And if they want to bring an extra set of nitrile gloves to leave on the seat for the customer to put on to drive the car, even better. Or if you as a customer have nitrile gloves at home, put them on just to be on the safe side. And then the salesperson is going to leave the car running in the person's driveway or out in front of their house, and they will maintain a minimum 6 foot, preferably 10-foot distance from the client. They're not going to go with you on the test drive. They're going to just sit on your front doorstep and, enjoy 10 minutes of peace and quiet to themselves while the customer goes and test drives the car themselves. So when the customer comes back from the test drive, if there are any questions and you want to learn more about the car, the salesperson will stand a safe distance away and answer all your questions and tell you everything you ever wanted to know about the car. But again, we're going to respect the social distancing guidelines and probably err on the side of a few extra feet. Then the salesperson is going to re-wipe down the car and return to the dealership, where the dealership is going to disinfect the entire car yet again. And I'll do my normal thing, assuming they like that car. I'm going to do my thing and negotiate the whole deal like I normally do. This is just, I always do everything via phone and email and text messages anyway. It's not like I ever go to the dealership. And, then once we get a deal together, the client will apply for the financing online like we normally do. And what I'm telling people with the financing is, if you're financing through the dealership, a lot of the manufacturers are putting out really good interest rates right now. The Fed dropped prime, which is what controls short-term interest rates like car loans. So they dropped that baby to zero a couple of weeks ago, but it's taking the retail banks a little bit of time to kind of adjust to that and adjust the retail auto loan rates. But some of the manufacturers are responding a lot faster with their captive finance companies. And so you can get some low APRs on new cars right now. I'm actually buying a Mazda CX-5 for my pseudo sister-in-law right now, and that's being delivered today. And we were able to get a 0.9% for 60 months from Mazda because they just literally implemented that a few days ago. So it's really great. And you apply online. If you are wanting to finance through your own bank, especially if you're a member of a credit union and they've got a lower rate, find out from them what their process is. Some credit unions are very up on technology and you can do everything electronically, including signing the documents. Some of them are a little more behind the times. If they're going to tell you have to come into the bank, obviously don't do it. Not worth it, even if it's a lower interest rate. But most of them are going to have a process where you can apply online, and then if they need to meet with you physically to sign physical paperwork, you just need to follow the same protocols that you're going to follow with the dealership and signing their paperwork. So how that's going to work is the dealer is going to prepare all said paperwork, and they're going to mark every place you've got to sign in highlighter. We all have tons of yellow and pink highlighters in the car business, so they're going to highlight everything for you. And the bank should do the same thing if you're financing separately through the bank. And again, they're going to clean the crap out of the car and disinfect everything yet again. And the salesperson will bring the car to you along with all of that paperwork. And what I recommend is that if you have any sort of, folding table, camping table, patio table, any type of table that you can set up outside your house, obviously disinfect it before they get there. But that way the salesperson doesn't have to come into your home and, increase the risk a little bit more. Everybody staying outside is a lot safer. So set up a table outside. They come, you stand far away. They put the paperwork on the table. If everybody's wearing gloves, step back, and they will stand 6 to 10 feet away from you and explain where to sign, and just, practice that kind of paranoid social distancing while you're signing all the paperwork with your own pen. and they're going to give you copies of your paperwork. I would recommend putting that inside a gallon Ziploc bag and then immediately putting it in the glove box of the car. I don't normally recommend keeping paperwork in the car's glove box, because if the car is stolen, then the person who stole it has all your paperwork with potentially some sensitive information on it. But right now, because it may take the DMV a little while to get your registration and all that processed on their end, just keep all your paperwork in the car. And if it's sealed in a Ziploc inside your glove box, you're probably not going to touch it for 3 days. And that's what the CDC says the virus can survive on surfaces like plastic and hard surfaces for 3 days. Just keep it sealed in there. It's probably the safest place for it to be, while any potential germs die out. And, then everybody goes home and washes their hands 10 times, and you're good. If you're trading in a vehicle to the dealership, I always have a process with the dealers where we appraise the car virtually. My clients fill out ridiculous levels of information and details on the condition of their car, including measuring the depth of the tread on the tire with a penny and taking pictures of it and taking 4 million pictures. So when I'm negotiating my deals, the dealers never usually see the client's car anyway. So it's a virtual appraisal process. You can do that with most dealers. If they're not comfortable with that, then, while they're doing the test drive, they can, send someone out to your house to look at your car. But I know for a fact that most dealers are doing virtual appraisals or just, really glancing at the car, because they don't want to crawl through your potentially nasty, germy car either. So please, for their sake, clean and disinfect your car. And when we come back after the break, we're going to talk very specifically how to do that, whether you're trading your car or not, if you're just continuing to drive it, because your car is probably one of the grossest, germiest things that you own and you don't even realize it. So if you are trading in your car, please do the dealer the courtesy of cleaning and disinfecting it as well, so that it reduces the risk to their people who are going to be driving it back to the dealership and then, processing it either to keep for their lot or to take to the auction and sell it. But if everybody follows these procedures, that's really the safest way that we can still do car buying during this crazy time. And I still recommend, once you get the car delivered to you, go ahead and re-wipe down all the surfaces, the door handles, re-disinfect it yourself. And then you can sit there and enjoy it, looking at it in your driveway until you're allowed to go anywhere. Or if you're not under a house arrest stay-at-home order, you can drive it around with the windows open and take in some fresh air and enjoy driving your new car. So it can be done. With used cars, it's a little more challenging, because with a used car, you really want to have that vehicle inspected by an independent mechanic. And, normally you could pick the car up from the dealership and take it to your mechanic for an inspection. I'm not recommending people do that, because I am erring on the side of we should all be staying at home as much as possible, whether we're under an order to do so or not, just so that we can flatten this curve and kick this virus's butt as quickly as possible and get back to life. But I've always used a company called the Lemon Squad, and you can see them at lemonsquad.com. They are still operating in areas where they are legally allowed to. So what you'll need to do is call them. You can go to their website, their phone number's out there, and find out, if they're operating in your area, and B, what is the time frame? Because it's usually they can get out there in 24 to 48 hours and turn an inspection around really quickly. It's taking longer now. So you just need to call and kind of find out what the deal is in your area and let them do the inspection. They have safety protocols they're following, and it just kind of keeps you out of the loop and keeps you extra safe, so that you don't have to worry about getting the car inspected. But, don't buy a used car without having it inspected, even during these times. And so a lot of the reporters have been asking me, well, what about, those online, companies and car vending machines that deliver your car to your door? Well, if you listened to my podcast last month, you know that I have some issues with those places, and I have more issues with some than others. But, my issue with them remains. You have to buy the car before you can get it inspected, which I don't like. But if you do it right, it can be okay. It's just they have not, and I checked this as early as this morning. Most of them give you anywhere from 3 to 7 days to decide you don't want the car for any reason and return it. And that means that's your window for getting a mechanic to inspect the car. That's a pretty tight window under normal circumstances. Right now, that's really tough to be able to make that window, especially if you're relying on, a mechanic to come to your home to inspect it so that you don't have to take it anywhere and put yourself at risk. So, you're kind of taking an additional risk because it's going to be a lot harder to get that used car inspected in that short time window. And they have not expanded those windows, at least as of this morning when I checked 4 different companies and their websites, and they have not changed their process on that. They are also not able to deliver cars to certain geographies because of the way the stay-at-home orders are written, and they are not considered an essential business. And I know they are currently working with the governmental authorities in those areas to try and lift that, because obviously they still want to be able to sell cars. So that's kind of ongoing. But again, I don't believe in buying a used car without having it inspected by a mechanic first. So that's where that stands. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about how do you properly disinfect your car, whether you're trading it in or not, because even if you're just driving it around right now, your car is probably more resembles a crime scene than you actually know. So after this, I'm going to go to my detail expert, Dr. Swirl Killer, to find out how to disinfect your car. We'll be right back. Do you hate car shopping? Do you worry about being taken advantage of or about finding the right car at a great price? Buying a car can be a frustrating and time-consuming experience. But what if you could get a great deal without having to do a ton of research, without having to haggle, and without the fear of buying a lemon? You can. As your personal car shopper, the Car Chick will help you pick the perfect car based on your unique lifestyle, budget, and personality. She'll handle all of the legwork and negotiating for you. All you have to do is sign the papers and take the keys. It's that easy. To learn how the Car Chick can save you time, money, and hassle on your next car purchase, give us a call at 704-248-8706. That's 704-248-8706. Or visit us on the web at thecarchick.com.
Ah, the Car Chick is back for more Straight Shift.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Straight Shift. Today we are talking about buying cars and taking care of your cars during this crazy coronavirus time. And I talked before about how you need to disinfect your car, especially if you're trading it into a dealer, just to keep them safe. But you should really disinfect your car no matter what, because cars are one of the grossest, germiest things that we own. Mythbusters did this several years ago where they tested out the average car, and they actually brought in a crime scene investigation team, and they used the luminol and the UV lights and all the crazy things. And most people's cars, they found, looked like a sleazy pay-per-hour motel room. So this is going to be good advice just in general to keep your car a little more sanitary, whether you're trying to prevent coronavirus or you're just trying to prevent any old normal germs during any time of the year. So, of course, anytime I want to know how to properly clean my car, I go to my dear friend John from Carolina's Finest Detailing, otherwise known as Dr. Swirl Killer. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, Leanne, I'm fine, thank you.
So, it's one thing to clean your car, but disinfecting is kind of a whole nother level. And let's just be honest, how many times have you sneezed in your car and not bothered to wipe it down, much less disinfect it? I'll admit, it's happened. And so I kind of worry about what might be on Maggie's steering wheel and her dashboard. So what do we do to disinfect a car without destroying the interior materials?
Absolutely. There's 3 terms that I want to talk about before we go any further. They're terms that are thrown around when we're talking about cleaning a car, but also disinfecting. And those terms are cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting. And especially now with everything going on, these terms are used interchangeably. When you hear detailers talking about it, the news, house cleaners and that. So the term cleaning is actively removing the surface dirt and germs, obviously, that are sitting on that dirt.
Right. That's what we just normally do when we think about washing
Correct.
our car. We, wipe down the kitchen counter at night, depending on what you use. Yeah, that's just getting the dirt off. Then there's a whole nother layer of germs that stay there.
Absolutely. And that brings us to sanitizing. So, sanitizing, in essence, is the act of removing, now that we've removed that surface dirt and bacteria, sanitizing is removing the germs and bacteria that are still present on the surface. And usually, and the next step is disinfecting. And disinfecting is, let's call it a stronger form of sanitizing. Disinfecting, usually you have to use a lot stronger chemical, and this is usually used to kill a really potent, germs. And like right now, we're talking about the COVID virus.
Right. And it's a nastier bug than most because it can live on hard surfaces, metal, plastic for 3 days. Whereas most cold and flu germs, the CDC says, they can hang around for like 24 hours, but it's easier to kill them. This one is a little more stubborn.
Absolutely, and that's why you want to be really careful when we're talking about the act of disinfecting. The COVID virus has proven to be far harder to kill than any type than a lot of your cold and your flu, or the stomach bug, those kind of germs and viruses. You have to use a lot stronger chemical, and a lot of those chemicals are actually harmful to the materials, can be harmful to the materials in your vehicle. A lot of your vehicle surfaces aren't, they're not as well built, or they can't take the chemicals. You can't use real strong chemicals in them like you can on your granite countertops, or your refrigerator, stuff like that. Some of these chemicals can actually damage certain surfaces inside your vehicle.
And that doesn't surprise me because, especially as they're trying to use more nice, soft touch materials that are more luxurious and cushier to our touch, they're also softer and more vulnerable. I've even noticed my doorknob, which I've been disinfecting like 4 times a day. I'm erring on the side of paranoia. My oil rubbed bronze external doorknob to my house is starting to look terrible because I have been disinfecting it with bleach. And, it's just, oh, well, I'll spray paint it later. But, I certainly don't want to destroy the interior of my car or, bleach it out, because so many cars, the interiors are black. They're made out of black materials, and that's going to fade or get damaged really easily. So, what do you use that will kill this horrible virus and not your car? Regardless of what it's doing to our own bodies. I've just kind of thrown that whole thing out the window. It's like, coronavirus, cancer, I don't know, whatever.
Absolutely. So the best advice that I like to give my clients. So before we start, these practices I'm going to give are not guaranteed to kill the COVID virus. What these practices are great for is cleaning and sanitizing the surfaces in your vehicle, which helps to uh, lower the chances of you spreading the virus, you know, from your vehicle to your fellow family members. And that it's mainly meant to lower the chance of spreading.
Right, because even people who are under the, orders to stay at home under law right now, you still got to get food, and people are still going out to the grocery store when they have to, and that involves going to a public place, touching things there, interacting with someone at some distance, and then getting back into your car. And most people don't think about their car as being a place where this virus could, take up a temporary habitation and increase the spread of it. So,
Absolutely. Some great practices to clean your vehicle first. I'm gonna A chemical that I love to recommend to my clients all the time is McGuire's Quick Interior Detailer. This chemical is
nice.
available Walmart, AutoZone, Pep Boys. It's a black spray bottle, and the label has a purple stripe.
Gotta love
And then
McGuire's.
you
They've
want
been a
to
great company for decades.
Absolutely. They're time tested product. We use a lot of professional grade McGuire's products in my shop on a daily basis. Um, Now, so we have this product, but you also want to use microfiber towels. So, due to the special nature of microfibers towels, they're actually able to lift germs and bacteria really well.
Oh,
So,
I
we
didn't
want to
even know
use,
that. That's cool.
absolutely. So, we want to use microfiber towel, and microfiber towels can be found in the automotive aisle, again, Walmart or your auto parts store.
You can
So,
order a whole bunch of them from the Amazon ferry.
exactly, and they're really great for. I use them at home for cleaning at home as well, just because of their special cleaning properties.
Yeah, that's all I use on my glasses. We have like a microfiber cloth designated for eyeglasses, pretty much every room in the house.
Same here, and ours get used daily. So now that we've got this chemical and we've got these towels, we want to clean, right? Best practice technique for cleaning your surface. And McGuire's Interior Detailer is great to use on every surface of your vehicle other than glass and carpet. So you can use it on leather, all the plastics, your steering wheel, the armrests. You can use it on your uh, upholstered seats. So any
Don't
surface, if
forget the
you
seat belts and then all the seat belt
exactly
mechanisms because we touch that all the time.
your seat belt, not only the material but the latch where you latch it when you're where you're sitting, everywhere. So the best practice to do is to those areas that are, let's call those uh, high impact areas, the areas that you touch every time you get in and out of your vehicle, your steering wheel, your control stalk for your windshield wipers and your turn signal, your shift knob,
Oh,
the
people
door
don't touch the turn
panel.
signal every time, John. What are you talking about?
Well, I guess I'm wrong in my assumptions there.
In my case, the gear shift, so the shift knob.
There you go. The seatbelt latch, the dashboard, your controls for the radio, and that. All these areas are areas that we need to clean before we try and sanitize them. So what's great about McGuire's Interior Detailer, it's you can use it. You can either spray it into the rag and wipe the surface, or you can douse the surface um, and really scrub those areas. And for the little small knobs in that, pick up a spare toothbrush while you're at Walmart. You just need a little cheap one, and you can scrub the little, your window controls and the little knobs in that.
All around all the little tiny buttons and stuff.
Yeah, and this is great practice not only because we're worried about the spread of germs right now, but throughout the year. Normal cleaning just leads to, the overall better feel of your vehicle. It looks better. It feels better, and it helps to prevent the spread. Excuse me, inhibit the spread of germs and bacteria throughout the year.
Right.
Because not only we're dealing with the COVID now, but like I said, when the stomach bug goes around and the flu and colds. So this common practice will help you throughout the year.
Great. So, what do we do now that we have wiped it down with this magic stuff? And just so people know, just when we're mentioning specific products and brands and stores, nobody is paying us to do this. We don't accept any advertising like that. So we're mentioning these products simply because we believe in them, we use them, but they're not giving us any kickbacks or free products or anything. So that's my disclaimer.
Ditto. I am not sponsored by any brand.
No, we pay them to buy their products, so the money's going the other way.
Yeah.
So what do we do now that we have cleaned all the surfaces? How do we get to that next step of sanitizing and then to disinfecting to try and get rid of as much as we possibly can?
Yeah. So sanitizing. So pretty much the safest chemical that I have found on a vehicle surface to sanitize is Lysol. Um, uh, and Lysol again is meant to kill as many germs and bacteria as possible. So with Lysol, we want to use a little more we don't want to be as liberal with this step. So the best case now that we've cleaned and all these surfaces is to spray the Lysol directly into a microfiber towel
A new one, a
And
fresh one, not the same one you used to
correct.
clean the
Yep.
car.
We want to use every step. We want to use clean towels, and these towels you want to clean after each use. And then I also want to stress, put gloves on and a mask if possible while you're performing um, these steps. We use on a daily basis, we use masks and gloves when we're cleaning, just because you're stirring up things when you're, both cleaning and sanitizing. So if
And the
possible,
reality is
wear
these
protection.
chemicals have things in them that are not good for us either, so you don't want them to be absorbed through your skin or inhaling them just because they're nasty toxic chemicals, and that's just, that's the nature of the automotive industry.
Absolutely. So take your microfiber. It's great to fold it into four. Spray some Lysol into the microfiber towel, and you want to wipe your surfaces. Now, some surfaces are a little more fragile, like we spoke about. So your control, a lot of times your control stalks for the turn signal and that, if you look on them, they have printed on them. The lettering is white. Um,
Oh, the lettering on Maggie has worn off by now.
so
Just the
it's
oils
all
in your skin over time will wear those off, but you don't want to exacerbate it with an overabundance of Lysol.
exactly. So certain areas that are tend to be fragile, your plastics, try and before you do the step, use it in an area that's inconspicuous, just to test for color fastness or to ensure you're not etching, chemical etching any of those surfaces. So now that we've cleaned, spray Lysol on a microfiber and just go ahead and wipe all those surfaces down. And then you want to follow up that Lysol wipe with a clean, dry microfiber and just do a final wipe.
That just gets any residual.
Correct. Yeah.
It can just leave kind of an oily layer or just anything residual that's kind of sitting on there. Let's just wipe it down and get it all nice and dry and clean.
There you go. Yeah. So we just want to, remove any residual or overspray. And that last step is just removing anything and not ensuring none of the Lysol would dry and maybe possibly etch or stain any of the materials on your vehicle surface.
And this is why we buy the big pack of microfiber towels.
That's right.
We go through a lot of them.
Yep. And then the last area we want to look at, and a lot of us don't realize it, is our carpet. Um,
Mm.
so we want to make sure uh, vacuum your carpet as best as possible. Shop vacs are really affordable. Alternatively, I know a lot of the drive-through like AutoBell, WikiWash, those guys, they offer a free vacuum with a car wash service. So vacuum your vehicle as best as possible, and then you can go ahead and spray Lysol onto the microfiber and wipe down your carpet as well. And the reason for that is, think about when you're in a vehicle and you sneeze, and not only is it going all over the
It
steering
goes
wheel and
everywhere.
that,
It's so gross.
correct, but it goes down onto the carpet at your feet as well. And then for you guys that have kids, sit in the back seat and look around. So the
Oh my
back
gosh,
of the
yeah, that's gonna be a
seat,
scary thing. How old is
correct.
your daughter again? You know this, John.
Yeah. No, I have a 6.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what they spew all over the back of your car.
Yes. So it's, all the back of the seat, the door, all of those areas are also areas that you want to clean as well as sanitize with the Lysol solution.
Yeah, because they frown upon us just, like, coating the children in Lysol, but, I know most parents have contemplated that at least once.
I've inhaled some over the last few days and I seem to be fine. So I would assume just coating myself would be good to go.
So what's
Um,
that last step? Is there a final step that we can kinda take it into this, realm of disinfecting?
so the last step, disinfecting, really, it's a step that we really want to tread lightly with. You know, a lot. If you look at a box of, like, I'm right now looking at a thing of disinfecting wipes. It's the Members Mark brand. There's the Clorox wipes and the Lysol wipes. So when you look at the back of these labels, there's directions to clean and then disinfect and sanitize, right? And usually with sanitizing, that requires leaving the surface wet for an extended period of time.
Right, and the
And
CDC was saying that you need to let the surface remain wet for something like 30 seconds in order to have a chance at killing this nasty thing. That's a long
exactly,
time.
it is a very long time. And that's there are a wide array of brands of these wipes, and none of us can guarantee uh, that these products won't negatively affect the surfaces on in your vehicle, especially the more fragile surfaces.
Right.
So, you know, the biggest thing we want to do is clean and sanitize. Disinfect, I always like to say, leaving these disinfecting chemicals on your car interior surface for a long extended period of time. That's something you want to do at your own risk.
Right.
Um, some areas can take it, your plastic kick panels and that. But when it comes to like more poor, softer, fragile areas, we want to be very careful with those.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And you just kind of have to decide for yourself what to do. I've taken some of the harsher chemicals and a lot of like 70% isopropyl alcohol and, wipe down Maggie's steering wheel and her gear shift, which are the things that I touch the most, as well as the
Hmm.
seatbelt mechanisms, because, those are the higher risk areas for me. And Maggie's, she's an '04. So, if it does damage those surfaces a little bit, I'll live with it because I'm
It,
in the high risk group. And so for me, taking every precaution that I possibly can to protect myself is going to be more important than, whether Maggie's steering wheel gets faded or not. I can always replace that or put a cover on it if I have to, but that's my personal choice. So,
Correct. And Maggie is a Mini Cooper, which you know they use a little bit higher grade material than some other brands, and that's the big thing that we have to tread lightly where we're talking about disinfecting. Is the quality of the material. Um,
so if you have a Chrysler product, it's going to get damaged.
no comments.
Yes, there it is. I said it. Everybody knows
and
how I feel about Chrysler products.
Yep, and some of the Ford plastics as well, especially the door plastics, are a lot more fragile. When we here in the shop, we use a lot of steam to clean and sanitize surfaces. We have to be really careful with Chrysler plastic as well as Ford, um, to not discolor or ruin them. Actually,
Wow. I'm not really surprised. And, all the manufacturers are using more and more of the plastics, and they're using cheaper and cheaper plastics to keep their costs down and also to continue to lighten the cars. To any way we can reduce weight, let's use cheaper plastics because it's lighter and it's cheaper. So, and that's happening everywhere. I'm seeing cheaper plastics being used in your high end German cars these days. So nobody's really immune to it, but some are still worse than others.
absolutely. And I also want to put a disclaimer out there. Um, with the COVID thing going on right now, you will see a lot of people advertising um, that they can put an antimicrobial product in on your vehicle services surfaces.
That just sounds
Uh,
like BS to me.
I'm going to err on the side of caution and say it is. Um, the thing is, you can have an antimicrobial property built into, a leather protectant or a plastic protectant or a fabric protectant. But how long is that property going to last?
And, when you say
Um,
antimicrobial, you're talking about microbes. That is a really broad area. And there's a big difference, between your microbes. And so, a virus that is this stubborn and strong, is totally different than if you're just talking about, some bacteria that float around that are easier to kill. So, antimicrobial, that's just a very vague term that I wouldn't trust, any further than I could throw it.
Absolutely, and that's why I want to make sure your listeners are aware of this. I don't want anybody being taken advantage of, falling into the trap of somebody selling them that they can put an antimicrobial, protectant on their vehicle. The best practice that you can do not only now, but throughout the year, is cleaning and sanitizing.
That's great advice, John, and thank you for really clarifying the distance, the difference between all those terms, because that's not even, we kind of throw those around very interchangeably, and they're really not. Especially, if you talk to medical professionals, where there are very specific meanings to those terms and specific processes and certain chemicals that they use. And that was really helpful to me to get that clarification from you, John. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and which products we should be using. And, remember, folks, it's still no guarantees that it's going to protect you from this nasty, nasty virus, but we're just all going to do everything that we possibly can to keep ourselves safe, to keep our families and our community safe. So, stay home, stay safe, only go out if you have to, and just all year round, keep your car clean. We don't need your car looking like, a no-tell motel or a crime scene.
A- Absolutely. And again, if you don't feel comfortable to perform, these type of practices, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to, facilitate. We can take care of these practices for you. Um, and we also, we have tools available to us as professional detailers that allow us to go a little further and a little deeper cleaning. So if possible, a lot of people that elderly that have immune issues and that, don't be afraid to reach out to myself or even a local detailer looking to really get your vehicles interior clean.
That's a great advice, John. And John's located, here in the Charlotte area on the southeast side of town, and does pickup and delivery within a certain area. For those of you in other areas, just find out if you have a detailer in your area. Find out what they're using, what their process is. If they can pick up your car, detail it, bring it back to you, handle the payment completely electronically, and make it a contactless process. But having your car professionally detailed is something that I recommend that you do on a regular basis anyway, if you can put that into your budget. But especially right now, it's just an extra step that, quite frankly, can't hurt. And right now, we've just got to do everything that we possibly can to keep ourselves and our families and our communities safe. So, John, thank you again. Please give my love to your family. You guys stay safe. And until next time, folks, I'm out of here.
The Straight Shift podcast is copyright Leanne Shattuck, The Car Chick, 2017. All views expressed by guest and or co-hosts are those of the guest and or co-hosts, and not necessarily those of Leanne Shattuck or The Car Chick.